And there we are. Uh-oh, where's your chat? We've lost our chat. There we go. Throwing me around, Steve. I'm tired.
Your mic was still picking up the laser during the intro, so it was still.
Oh, was it? Oh,
yeah.
My bad. Sorry, guys. There's laser work going on over here. It's got this weird little noise it makes when it goes back and forth. I think I need to give it a little machine oil. It's actually quieting it down a little bit now. Well, I said it, and there it goes.
Yep. See, there you go. It's like me and the crickets last year.
Yeah. Well, I thought I had it to where during the intro, it only played intro audio, but I have to look into that. It's been one of them days. I have been rehydrating and recovering. As you can see, I got sun, like lots of sun. My neck's even redder than it was before.
Perimeter alert. Delivery
Busy
box.
couple days.
I guess Brandy's taking the trash down. It'll be a driveway alarm in a minute. All right, let's see here. There's a few people in here. Let's see who we got. Nancy, good evening, Miami, Florida. I'll tell you, we got a lot of folks in Florida. Next time I go down there, you might actually see somebody that knows us. Steve, hello. Peter, Jack in the Box, how are you, sir? Tom from Phoenix. Patty, Brad, Chris, Jack, Nipa, what's up? 3DHP, how's it going, sir? Roger Court from Illinois, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully it'll be a fairly eventful show because I'm tired. I ain't gonna lie. It's 3 days, 2 days of preparation for the Peach Jam, and then yesterday being out there from like 8 o'clock until 10, 11 o'clock last night. It just sucked the life out of me.
Yeah.
So, Temecula, California. Never heard of that place. That's a new one on me. You got me on that one. Harry from St. Louis. How are you? Kevin from up there around your way. And North Alabama Barbecue Butts and Big Rigs. Peter said he loves the intro. Steve did that. That wasn't me. He's the intro guy. So y'all can thank him for that one. Or blame him, whichever way.
Perimeter alert.
Yeah.
Driveway.
So he tells you. She made it to the driveway. David Allen. That guy's got the best name in here. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, Jack. I shot myself in the foot this weekend. I have disciplined my my ordering department in charge of stock and inventory. I've disciplined them and tripled up on what I normally would order. So hopefully this will not happen again because I ran out of the things that everybody wanted, and I had to start turning down customers, and I do not like doing that. I was able to substitute a few, but there was a lot of them that were just dead set on the heavy stainless steel dog tags, and I had some of them left over that already had something on them, but they wanted their own little custom thing, and I managed to take one of them and talk a guy into putting his design on one side and having the flag on the other. That worked out, but I was out of them. It was terrible. I thought I had plenty of them. I had like 50 of them, but it wasn't enough.
Well,
what's up, Cody?
What you brought?
Do I?
I'd say it's good that you sold out the stuff that you thought was good enough. That means it was a pretty good. For you.
I was right about what was going to sell. I was just wrong about the quantity.
Yeah.
I stocked up on keychains because I thought keychains was going to be the thing, and they were. Keychains were good. The pet tags, I luckily I bought like 200 of those, so I had plenty of colors to pick from because purple was a really popular color yesterday, and I didn't have very many purple ones in my previous stash, but I ordered like 300 of those little pet tags, so I had plenty of those. And there toward the end, that was about all I could sell because I was out of everything else. I was out of bottle openers. I was out of the dog tags. It was a little ridiculous, but I have manned up on Amazon, and I have plenty of inventory coming for the next event. So we'll see how that goes. Oh yeah, saw that feller over there. Got to meet him face to face. It was good. It was good to get to meet some folks. I did give away, and this was a secret. I didn't tell anybody, but all the folks from the live that showed up got a T-shirt just like this one. Except one guy. He was such a diehard Bama fan that he refused to take it because it was orange. So,
Telling you, I drive 1,600 miles, and
I'm gonna
I'm
ship
gonna
you a
get a
shirt. I'm gonna ship you. I'm gonna have this. I'm gonna go online and order one and have this and that. Ship it to you. 'Cause they'll do that. I didn't have them when you were here, and then you couldn't wear the ones that I wear because you got that Sasquatch, size going on. They don't sell them in Sasquatch. You got to special order that.
Yep.
I said Illinois is really low. Can only hear. Oh, I think he meant the noise is really low. Can only hear it when I mention it. Yeah, it'll be through shortly. It's taking a little while. I ran it at like 318 LPI on this 40 watt, which was probably a little bit of an overkill, but I'm just testing. Cody? Cody's got some new bits coming out, I hear. I see he's trying to name one. So if you want a bit named after you, go over to Cody's and put your name in the comments. I'm not good for naming things. So I haven't really put anything out there. But I do look forward to expanding the collection. The only gripe that I have is, I made my Jenny bit holder. So it looks like we're going to have to go back and do some slight modifications to that.
Yep.
Add some more holes.
It's a good thing.
But I got a CNC, so I think I can pull it off. Yep. Oh, Steve, I did. We went and I got all fat and happy after Waffle House. Had me a Texas cheese melt with bacon, the whole 9 yards, extra mayonnaise, double order hash browns with everything but the gravy, and had to go into town to pick up my buggy and my little trailer from, we've been using it like yesterday. Like there were vendors that they didn't have a way to bring their stuff in, and like during certain hours you could not bring like a car or truck into the area. So man, there was folks offering to rent my buggy and everything else yesterday to haul their stuff back to their cars. A few of my local businesses that I know through the Merchants Association came over and was like, "Hey, Clack," or "Hey, Brandy, can we use that?" So we got some miles on it yesterday, but it was a good event. All right, so what's going on with you? Yeah, I had enough. Says I look tanned. Yeah, I ought to. Been out in the sun for 3 days.
Well, I've had a busy and productive week, but nothing much to show for it. I was shuffling a lot of things in the basement shop and tore down the old workbench, hauled a bunch of stuff off to the dump, and then rebuilt a better bench down there. So I'll have more storage. It's up a little higher, so it'll be easier to sit at. So that took a few of my days. But today I actually got out in the shop and did some stuff. And speaking of Cody's bits, I finally put this bowl bit to use just this evening. And this wasn't the best piece of wood. This is a scrap piece of cherry that I have. This side's okay, but the other side's getting a little punky. So it's had a lot of
So it's a good candidate to be made into a bowl.
Yeah, well, it's just testing out the bit and checking my tramming on the CNC, and actually it came out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with that. So I'll have to play with a better piece of wood. I don't think there's any level of sanding that's going to fix this. You'd have to stabilize it and whatnot. But yeah, getting the CNC tuned back up. I was also working on using the Skinny Jenny, which is like the tapered ball nose, to try to play around with getting it set up as an inlay bit. Normally you'd use a V bit. The ball nose bits don't come down to a sharp point, so it kind of messes with your tool paths. So I got to do a little more playing with that to see if I can get that to work, because someone else was asking me if I could help them out with the design and the files for their Onefinity in that bit. So finally getting a little more time on the CNCs after them sitting idle screaming at me for a while. So
well, that's good. Glad to hear it. I was
Yeah.
starting to wonder if I was going to see it on Marketplace or something.
And no. A friend of mine just down south of here, as a matter of fact, he's Mark from Gunflint Designs. He got, or I think he's got most of the parts. He's got the elite upgrade for his woodworker or his journeyman
Yeah.
150. So I keep telling him, I'm like, hey, you need some help putting it together or whatnot. I want to see that thing because I'm trying to tell myself I don't need it, but
Yeah.
even today while I was playing around with this bit or another bit, I was like, oh, typical of Cody's bits. I was running it a little conservative and was like, I could ramp this up, but unfortunately with the original 150, you can't adjust the feed rates on the fly.
Oh, and that
So,
burned you up too, didn't it?
so yeah, I was like, well, I could stop it and resend the job with the higher speed, but I just let it run. It was running okay. So
Yeah. Midnight Sunworks. If I'm understanding the question, is asking how do you draw a point 1 inches away or 1 inch away from another point in VCarve will transfer to Lightburn later. And I do a lot in Lightburn and then send it to VCarve. Occasionally, I do send stuff from VCarve over into Lightburn, but if you build a SVG in Lightburn and bring it in, or a DXF and bring it in, it works both ways. I've had good luck with it. I mean, as far as coming from VCarve, export as a DXF and bringing in the Lightburn. I mean, have you had any issues with being able to cross them over like that, as far as measurements and just consistency or anything?
no, I mean, occasionally on an application, you got to be careful on some of them will have export settings that will change your dimensions from metric to imperial or otherwise. So you just got to be kind of cautious about that. One thing to do if you are moving from one application to other, draw yourself a 1 inch box somewhere on your drawing, and that can be a
Yeah.
reference thing to double check that it imported the same size.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, SVGs actually, I used to prefer DXFs just coming from CAD and model airplane development, but SVGs seem to be pretty much the stable go-to these days for transferring those back and forth.
Yeah, I know. I do a lot of, like I said, I'll design the project in Lightburn and send it over to VCarve, and then once I've engraved it or cut it out in VCarve, I'll bring it back and then frame it up and do the engrave with the laser. And I haven't seen any deviations or had any issues with that. But if you're trying to, let's say if you know, like, if you want to be absolutely certain, you could even go in and put a little crosshair or circle or something in the file so that you could run it first and kind of mark your zero. And I mean, but I don't have a problem with doing it. I just bring them in and then I orient them wherever I want to in the workspace, set my home location and go. But I've never really seen a need. I've seen some people like create index marks in the files and all that, but I don't do that. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So Nancy's looking for a laser friend in the Miami area. So if you're nearby, Nancy wants to know that she's not the only one.
That's a good plug for if you go down to the description of each of our videos, we've got links to our laser engraver community map. And
it is.
I know we've commented before. We've got the growing contingent from Florida, so check out that links there. There you might be able to find someone in the area, or if you want to put your pin out there as well. It just asks for your name or screen name, business name, however you want to put it on there, and then a general address. It doesn't have to be your actual home address. It could be business or just city state, but it doesn't share any other contact information. So you can check that out, or if you want to drop your pin or see who else is around you, just check out those links down below, and that might help you find people in your area.
Yeah, Robert said that Tim McCullough is in South California, wine country. You don't want Steve coming up there; he'll be drinking up all the wine.
Well, that's
But
what.
they do. Hey, California does have Sasquatches though, so that
I don't think they've actually seen any, have they?
Well, I see a lot of people out there claiming they see them up in California. So,
well,
you know,
yeah, there's claims.
If you go out there, make sure. Yeah, if you go out there, make sure you don't like wander off in the woods by yourself. You might get captured or shot. They'll mistake you for a Bigfoot.
There are parts of California I'd like to go to, but I don't enjoy being in large groups of people because they tend to start bugging me with the randomness and whatnot. So
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have liked where I was at yesterday. Mm. It was a large group.
yeah, I would have just been hanging out in your booth on my phone, staring at no one.
Yeah, I'd be like Klein. Klein was kicked back in the chair, relaxing, and I turned around. Which now I will say, I give Klein a hard time because sometimes he just asks for it, but he actually did a really good job yesterday helping me manage the people as they were coming by, because there were so many people that I would be engaged with a customer and somebody else would walk by and walk up to the table, and you don't want to be rude, and you know what I mean. And so he would step up. I think he made probably at least half of the sales, maybe even more, because I was so busy, like, putting everything together and processing payment and all that it was just bam, 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 bam. So yeah, he did a good job, and he said he learned a lot as far as like the salesmanship aspects of it, like I'm talking about when people walk by and they glance your way, engaging them to get them to walk over. He was really. He said it was really educational for him, somebody who's wanting to do more events on his own. So he was happy to be there, and he actually showed up semi on time yesterday morning. So that was good.
Did you teach him the wink?
The wink.
Yeah, when people glance at you and you're trying to get their attention.
Yeah, we don't wink. I just like say, hey.
Oh, okay.
Hey, how you doing?
You don't go for
my famous line is, I can put your name on anything.
You don't go for the creepy factor then, huh?
If you see him walking a dog, you definitely have to say, hey, fur baby needs a new name tag.
There you go.
But that Chihuahua, I actually sold a Chihuahua, my little Chihuahua cutout. I actually had a lady who wanted it. I thought she was wanting the pet tag. She's like, hey, I want one of those. And I'm like, oh, the pet tag? What you want it to say? And she's like, no, the actual dog display. And I was like, okay. She's like, but I'd like it a little smaller. Is that possible? So I just like, yeah, sure. So I resized it and fixed the slots, because it does have a base, and throw a piece of material in the Atom stack and cut it out for her. And she was happy. She said she had a Chihuahua that she had lost, and it looked just like that little thing, and she wanted it as kind of like to put with some of the other stuff for her Chihuahua. So
very cool.
Hey, sold that. But yeah, is that okay? I think it's supposed to be it's messing with my brain. Says he's having troubles with the Algo Laser MK2. When he does the circle test, the right side, the circles come out not round. Been adjusting tension in the nuts, but can't tell if I'm overdoing it. The best way I know to tell you especially like with the Algos, because the head's not terribly heavy on those, you should be able to relatively easily push the gantry with the power cut off. Now, don't do it real fast, but it shouldn't fight you when you try to move it with the power turned off. It should move, relatively easy and relatively slow. But if you're having to really bear down on it to get it to move, or if you bump it and it just flies, there's a sweet spot you got to get to with all of them, but especially with that one, because the head's not that heavy, so they don't have to be just crazy tight. You just want to get it to where the wheels, when you tighten, you make sure it's got the same kind of wheels. If you're tightening the wheels, you're really digging into this thing. Maybe you're talking about just the belts, because the wheels are kind of hidden on this one. But the belts, hang on, let me swap you over. I'm still testing this MK2, so I got it right here. Well, that didn't work. But the belts on this one are relatively tight. But just, it's hard to say. Go to my Facebook page, send me some pictures of what you're doing, and let me look at them.
Yeah, I was gonna say on the original Alpha that I had, I found I had to tighten the belts a little bit more than I normally would. Like they had a little more tension on them than most.
Yeah, they're pretty springy. The way I've got mine set.
So yeah, if you think you're overdoing it, you might be getting close. I mean, you don't want them so tight that you can play a guitar solo on it, but they weren't very slack. I know I had to tighten mine up more than I thought on the original. So
Yeah, another thing to double check is make sure that the sides are synced up. And with this particular machine, you're going to want to either push it to the back or pull it to the front until it hits those little stop bolts, and make sure that both sides contact that at the same time. It's got those little stops that stick out. You want both sides to hit it at the same time. If one hits it and then the other one has a little bit of like spring to it, then you're going to need to loosen the connecting linkage for the rod on there, pull them both till they're touching, and then snug everything back down. Because if that rod is not timed exactly, it can cause that as well. Because one side's trying to fight the other side as it's making circles. But yeah, it's just keep adjusting. Just don't adjust it to the point where you break something. You'll be good. Well, Nancy, I had inventory. I just didn't have particular parts of my inventory. And the stuff that I had, people were wanting the custom stuff, not the pre-made. And I had a few things that, like some of my constitutional stuff, We the People, Second Amendment, that kind of stuff that flew. And then I had some other stuff that was flying briefly, and I was restocking it as it was going, and all of a sudden it stopped. And so I had made 2 or 3 extras, but you never know. I from now on, I'm going to take twice as much inventory as I suspect I'll need. I strongly underestimated the crowd. That was
and I would imagine they're going to expect you to sell out of some things, but I'm sure they just don't want empty tables there. So don't be afraid to bring the fancy, expensive, ridiculous price, no one's going to buy it item, because you never know, someone might find interested in and want it, or want something similar, and it's something that's going to stay on your table that looks good, and then you won't be technically out of inventory.
Yeah, I didn't, like I said, I didn't put a lot of big stuff out. I put a few boards out and a few things, but I stuck with the keychains, the bottle openers, the anodized stuff, the leather keychains. I mean, the small stuff that I could do on site, because there was 300 and something vendors there. There was a lot of woodworking, a lot of CNCs, a lot of, laser stuff. I did have a couple of the vendors actually come by and talk to me about my machine. And as usual, there's a lot of Glowforge folks in the craft fair market type environment. But apparently their Glowforge was down, and they were looking at replacing it with an X-Tool P2. And apparently they knew who I was and knew that I had a P2. And so they came by and talked to me about it. And so I think they're kind of leaning going that way, because they're used to the whole landscape around the Glowforge. And I think that would be a smoother transition for somebody like that than going, to a light burn only machine. I think it would be a little smoother because it's very similar.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a neat event. Can you paint? Do you know the answer to this? Is that the stuff with the string in it?
I'm so my local Lowe's is like an hour away, so I don't shop there all that often. I'm familiar with some whiteboards. It's usually like a hardboard with a shiny surface to one side, like a thin veneer that's like almost like a marker board surface. I don't know. I know you could probably paint the backside, but I don't know about painting the actual white surface. You'd probably need to prime it or scuff it up a little bit first. Otherwise, it's probably going to come off there fairly easily. But like I say, I haven't worked with that exact stuff.
No, not bored. I did a most recent video on my enclosure, or my setup, but I run a battery backup just like the ones I use on my lasers in the shop, and I power it off of a generator, a little 2,000 watt inverter type generator that's like really, really quiet, which I've expanded my stuff a little bit. So I may be going to add a little solar battery pack as well. And that way I can, run both if I need to, or have one or the other. But that's my next event's not until September, which is going to be the Pedals from the Past YouTube event in Jemison. And so I got a little while to get everything shaped up, because the only other thing that I have that I may do is our local Humane Society is doing a fundraiser event, and they've asked me to participate in that, but the jury's still out on whether I'll be able to or not, depending on the scheduling. I would like to, because if it's a Humane Society event, that means there's going to be a lot of dog people there. So I would kind of like to, but we'll see. Tim, typically I'll just use old scraps of wood or something around the edges. Like if you've got a little piece of 3/4 material, like a 3/4 by 3/4 piece of material, just lay it around the edges. I like to try to space them up at least a 1/2 inch. Depending on which laser it is, you might not need that 1/2 inch, but I like to try to get about a 1/2 inch gap underneath the mirror before the laser impacts anything. That way, if it does reflect, it's so out of focus that it doesn't mark the front of it. But you can do that. You can even take and cut you a little, like my frames that I do, just cut you several pieces of plywood, glue it together, and make your own like 3/4 inch thick piece of plywood and have like a little recess in it if you're not using a jig. So that would be my recommendations. Anywhere from a 1/2 inch to 3/4. If you can handle it, if your machine has enough Z-axis travel, the more the merrier. Somebody made some church shirts and nobody would wear them. Deborah, if you're going through the backside, you have to mirror the image. If you don't, it'll read backwards when you look at the front, the shiny side. I do have plenty of videos on mirrors, so that shouldn't be hard to find out. I thought I saw another question from Tim a while ago. Maybe that was the only one. The X-Tool S1, Tim, I actually have a little kit that I built, but like I said, as long as you got a 1/2 inch space, you can use whatever. If you're worried about, engraving it, you can use something that's not laserable, like if you get your hands on a couple of pieces of 1/2 inch thick, metal or something. But you want to put whatever it is under there. You want it outside the engravable area that you're going to be doing. I just use scrap pieces of wood.
Yeah, I have for a lot of that stuff, I have cutoffs from plywood. And the nice thing here is if you get two of the same one, they're the same thickness. So I use that. Sometimes if I'm bench testing a laser, I'll actually put these on the edges of the honeycomb to elevate it. I use these as blocks in the CNC on the cam clamps just to make up space, things like that. So keeping little scraps of plywood, because it's consistent, stable material, is really handy for things like that.
Yeah. Oh, he was saying something about the V-carve is he was trying to figure out how to just place points in the file. You've got the ruler in there that you can use as well as
you can drag guides from the rulers.
Yeah, and you can even duplicate it. You can duplicate the file as well, and then there's a couple different ways. Let me see if I got. Give me a little mock setup right quick. Make sure that I'm right about this. Yes. So one thing that you could do if you just wanted to, like if you had to mark a spot, like let's say you was doing it with a circle, and you could literally make this circle like a 1 millimeter circle. The easiest, simplest way I can think of would be to go down here to your array tool, and then you can just set the offset or the gap between them here. And when you do you would basically, let's see, columns would be 1, rows would be 2. You could go in here, and so the gap on the X would be 25.6 millimeters. And then you hit copy. Okay, I went the wrong way with it. Yep, I got a little jacked up on that, but you get the idea. As long as you're going up or to the right, you could actually use the little array tool to do those. That would be super, super easy. But there's like 110 ways you can do it. There's a measuring tool. There's, draw a square or draw a circle that's 1 inch circle, and then just drag it, drop it to the edge of it, or use the alignment tools to make it stick to the edge of it. There's a lot of different ways. This thing is still going.
Yeah.
It must be doing the grass. Let me look. I got to peek. Yeah, I can stop it now. It's in the grass. Well, no, I got a cut line too. Never mind. Is it 25.4? Okay. Yeah. Math, not my strong suit. Numbers, not my jive. I knew it was about 25.
Yeah,
uh-oh.
I mean, in woodworking, 25 is about close enough. In machining, you want to go a little
Yeah.
closer than that. But
Let's see. A lot of folks commenting on my tan.
yeah, well, you did get a lot of sun this weekend.
Oh, I did. My head, I was trying to keep it getting burned. And I think that's why I felt like crap this morning. So I was almost baked.
The sun, it'll take a lot of energy out of you. So,
Well, luckily I had my little fan, but you had to stand in one spot for the fan to be effective.
Yeah. Well, luckily for us up here, it hasn't gotten that warm yet.
Well, thank you there, Trade Skillers Anonymous. Yeah, pretty much. Y'all guys, as far as the content or topics, you guys bring it. Because if you ask a question, we'll go down a rabbit hole. Sometimes it's a really deep rabbit hole. Because between Steve and I, we have different approaches. We have different views of how we would do it, because we both learned everything we know differently. Steve started with CAD design and then worked his way into CNC and then went to the lasers. And I went from lasers to 3D printing to CNC. So, I mean, we go about problem solving differently. So a lot of times we can actually offer you a couple of different ways of doing it. And, not saying Steve's way's wrong, but my brain works different than Steve's, and Steve's works different than everybody else's, and vice versa. And it's all about getting the product at the end of the day that you wanted to make, and whichever way is easiest for you. So
he won't say it publicly, but he tells me quite often I'm wrong.
No, I don't say you're wrong. I just say the way you do things sometimes it confuses my visual 3D brain gets confused sometimes with stuff like that. I have to dissect things a certain way so that my mind can place them back together. I got a buddy that claims he says that I see things in 3D, whereas most people see them in 2D. And he said where I skip steps because I can kind of visualize how it should go together. He says that other people need to see those steps because their mind don't work that way. And so I think it's a good idea to have different aspects and different approaches to designing stuff, because not everybody's mind works the same. I mean, not everybody in here has been through 8 years worth of engineering school. So we haven't all learned the same way. But yeah, it's cool. Yeah. So Hobo's giving math lessons now. I'm good. I got my little assistant over here, Mr. Echo, and I have a calculator on my computer. I'm good.
Let's see. What did I see here? T. Kruger is mentioning, have you tried the new update XCS software or the new curve setting? I have not. I heard a few people were having some issues with the power speed settings on there, so I was going to let that calm down. And I've been working with a couple other machines. Like I mentioned earlier, wanted to get some time back in with the CNC. It's been a little lonely recently, so I hope to play around with it. I did hear that they have the new kerf offset, because that's always a good tool to have. That it's one of the features that I felt has been missing. But yeah, wanting to let it settle down a little bit before I jump in on that one. So curious to see what others are saying.
Yeah, I haven't played with it, but I don't usually do a lot with kerf offset. It's just the tolerances. Very few times have I had tolerances that I just find it easier there. Again, my mind works different. I find it easier to just, deduct a little bit off of my shape or whatever to tighten it up instead of using the curve offset. But
Well, I used to do that too. I would do it in my actual drawing before
yeah,
bringing it into Artie Works or then Lightburn. But then when you share files with
yeah,
someone, their curve can be way off, and then they have to know what your offset was to get it back to the root. So I've gotten used to kind of using it.
yeah. I probably should do better at it, but like I said, most of the stuff that I do, if I was doing an inlay or something like that, then yeah, that would be one of those situations to where you would definitely want to dial it in. But just making little boxes that you're going to glue joints and even friction fit joints, I have a really good luck, especially like in boxes.py. I always just add another 5 to the end of the curve where it does a 0.1 or whatever. Was it 0.0,
Yeah, I think
0.01?
theirs is like 0.1. Yep.
Yeah, I just add a 5 to it to make it a little tighter, and boom, they work. But like I said, in certain situations, I could see where it would be a big deal. But I haven't really tested this machine to see how wide the kerf is on it. I do know the dot size is significantly larger than most of the 20 and 30 watts. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to see. This might actually be the first machine that I do need to use that with.
I'm noticing something similar on this Sculpt Fun 40 watt that the curve size seems a lot larger. So I'm trying to do some more testing before
Yeah.
I'm because it's hard to say on that. They give you the recommended focus. Sometimes that can be off. So I need to do a ramp test yet and do a little more checking before I settle it on
Well,
it.
with this guy, there is no. I mean, it focuses itself, so you have no control over that. Uh, I haven't played around in Lightburn yet to see if it offers me the ability, or if I can get the Z axis to work with it like an addressable Z. I haven't got to that part yet. I wanted to, before I did anything, I wanted to see what the photo quality was, and I think I overkilled it on the setting. I mean, it doesn't look terrible. It looks embossed, but it's a lot darker than I anticipated it being.
Sure.
Because it's doing this weird thing to where I set it for 300 millimeters a second, but it moves fast and then it goes slow and then it moves fast, and it's like I don't know why it's doing that. It's acting like it's in reverse grayscale or something. I might go back and look at my settings, but I don't think it's nothing I did.
You're running that through Lightburn.
Yes, right here.
Yeah,
this is what I'm working on right here. This is the picture of my booth, because I was like, it's a not a bad picture, but it's not ideal. But I wanted to see what it was capable of. And
you're running bidirectional as well.
yes, and so I've got it running bidirectional. I've got a 318 LPI, which is a little much for the dot size of this machine, but I wanted to just see what it would do. And you would think at 275 it would be moving a lot faster than what it is, but yeah, but it's not doing bad. The light burn operation of the machine is actually a lot better, a lot smoother than what I thought it would be. The only hang up I have is the camera situation, but as soon as Amazon delivers said camera, there's going to be some modifications done to the machine. And I told WeCreate, I said, guys, so far I like the upgrades, but y'all really dropped the ball on this one. I mean, you could have added one more camera, added a USB port to the back of it for that secondary camera. What's it going to cost you? $10, $15 more to implement 2 cameras, one for your software, one for Lightburn. But I'm fixing to implement one for them. So I've got a 3D print a bracket. I think I've got it figured out. I think I got it figured out how to make it work. So we'll see. I'm going to be using the same camera, using all my other enclosures, and I'm going to modify the little enclosure that I already have to make it a little lower profile for this machine, and see how that works. I'm hoping that I will be able to just go on the inside using some 3M adhesive, and where the camera is, the normal camera is, attach it there, just to the underside of the plexiglass, and get good results. The calibration is going to be a little off center from where I like for it to be, but it's only going to be about an inch, so I think it'll be fine. We'll see. There'll be some testing done.
I know when I was playing around with Lightburn on the original one, it allows it to use functions that their software disables. And I think that's where you start running into some of these performance issues. So I'm wondering if you were just running, I mean, between the high LPI, the bidirectional and whatnot, you might just be pushing that machine harder than it wants to go. So
And that's possible. It may be that it's dumping too much information on that controller, but the last machine that they made, the controller, from what I've been told, was very similar to the MK2 as far as processing power. This one may have a different controller. I don't know. And it could be some stuff getting lost in translation, because the machine, I do know that, like, when you take a picture, the software sends almost like a script to the controller. The controller fires the camera, and then it sends another script to receive the image from the machine, which are things that so far I haven't. There's no way of doing that in Lightburn. I was looking at some of the traffic back and forth between the machine and their software, hoping maybe I could pick out some G code or something in there that would do it, but it doesn't look like it. The camera has anything to do with G code. It's their own little native software, so that's a no-go. So the only other option I have is adding
well,
a
yeah,
secondary
and
camera.
since you only have the one USB, Lightburn's looking for a separate camera.
Oh, and I took the board out of it to see
Wow.
how the camera was attached. I had there may or may not have been going to be a a relocation of the USB port, but they've actually got the camera is connected to a just a board connector. I was hoping maybe they just had it plugged in USB and on the controller, but I popped the controller out and looked at it, and it's not going to be an easy transition without soldering and cutting wires, and I didn't want to do that. I was going to just unplug it from the controller and then use me a USB extension to get it outside the box, but that wasn't going to happen without any modifications to the wiring and the board. Couldn't make it work, so I was going to add a camera. I found cable routing. There's enough room in the cable chains and stuff to make it work. But we'll see how it goes. It's going to be an operation, but I like tinkering.
So Anita's wondering about Lightburn instructions and YouTube lessons.
Yeah, I think we both have a little bit of stuff, and the file design lives, I think, are probably the best place to start. Is like if you see like one of the lives where I'm designing something or whatever, you can kind of follow along and do something similar, or make the same file if you want. Getting in there and just getting your hands dirty is the best way to learn, in my opinion. And if you don't want to waste a lot of material, next time you get an Amazon package in the mail, cut the box into little squares and use it as practice material. That way you don't have to, go buy a bunch of plywood and all that. But if you're using cardboard, do make sure you get the proper settings and do not leave it unattended, because the stuff will burn. But it's a good practice medium if you don't want to use plywood.
Yeah. And that brings up a good point. I should probably, like you mentioned, a lot of my tips and tricks are embedded in my project videos. I should probably just do your first project in Lightburn, how to start navigating it, or something to just go over the basics of what a line is versus fill and changing the settings and such. So, but I do have a couple that would help out, at least trying to dial in your laser. I've got the using the material test to identify what is going to work well for your laser. And I believe I made one, I think it was just making simple keychains, and that kind of goes over a simple engrave feature, and then a cut feature, and aligning some things. So those would be a couple ones from mine that I might recommend you check out, just to kind of get your feet wet in Lightburn.
Yeah, I've got my little Lightburn crash course video that I did a while back, and I touch on a lot of the, like you said, the really, really basic stuff, like setting up your machine and using a return to location, setting it to where you can use a laser dot for framing, stuff like that. But a lot of my lives, like if you see one of my lives that says file design or, whatever, those might be something you want to look at, because most of the time with those, I try to start out with, my inspiration or the picture of what I've been asked to make, and then just kind of walk it from there. So, but yeah. And like I said, Rich has a bunch of tutorials. I know Hobo does a bunch of Lightburn tutorial stuff. So I mean, there's a lot of resources out there. It just there is no fast fix, I don't think, unless you're just really good with learning softwares. Well, I would hope you don't see any smoke. That would be bad because I've upgraded my little exhaust setup over here. I actually have a fan now that's right there by where it goes out the wall. If we were seeing smoke, We Create would have an issue. But their little fan's not quiet. It's a pretty powerful little fan they stuck in there, but it's a PC fan, so you can hear that high pitch. It should be getting close to done. I should have cropped the picture. Oh yeah, I should have cropped it. I got like 2 inches of nothing but grass. Jeffrey, actually there is a search function in the videos. Okay, here we go. Lesson time. All right, let me go to Steve's videos because that way it'll look like what it looks like when y'all go to my channel instead of what it looks like when I go to my channel. So I don't know what machine or what kind of device you're watching on, but here we go. Watch this right here. So when you go to somebody's YouTube channel, like on Steve's channel here, there's this little search button right here. So like he just said, check for his keychain video. So we'll search for keychain. All right. And when you do that, it's going to pull up that video. So on the same instance, you could go to this little search box right here and type in Lightburn and hit search. And it's going to pull up all the videos that have the word Lightburn in the title. So if you wanted to look for how to make a box, you could actually just type box in there and hit search. And there's Steve's videos on how to make a box. So any YouTube channel you go to, regardless of whose it is, like if I go over to Hobo's, if I go to Hobo's channel, here's that little search. And I can go in here and I know he has a video on a windmill. So I'm going to type in the word windmill. And there's the video where he's typing the windmill. So it's pretty decent, or actually that's not exactly the one. He must have it in the description, but it's going to search those videos and try to find related terms for you. So that's just an easy little tool. And if you're looking for a particular machine like the MK2, then same thing. And you go to his MK2 videos. So there you go. Hope that helps. And maybe there's some people in here that didn't know that didn't ask the question. But that's what it's all about, is showing you that. Now, as far as within the video, yeah, no, it's not necessarily, you're not gonna be able to search like his video unless he creates time markers in them. And sometimes YouTube will actually do that for you.
Yeah,
I tell it to, but if you squirrel as much as I do, it just crashes the AI that does that. but that's a really, really useful tool when you're learning Lightburn, and especially if you have, like, because there are people out there that don't like my method of teaching, and there's people out there that don't like Steve's method of teaching, and usually those people make it overwhelmingly obvious they don't like our teaching. So, if you find that person that you seem like you can learn from and you're going to them and looking for specific content, that little search box is your friend. Because I hear it all the time. What is it they like to say? I've been watching this video for 15 minutes and haven't learned anything. So
if I haven't learned anything in 15 minutes on a video, I'm usually gone and I haven't commented.
Yeah. Oh, they'll stick around to comment. But yeah.
Oh. Whoa.
There you go.
Tonight, while engraving some brisket. Now that sounds really good. Boards. Oh. I noticed the camera on Lightburn kept freezing up. Is there something I need to do to fix this issue? So you're talking about the preview, I guess, or like up in the upper right.
Yeah, I think he's talking about like the live view over there. That could be related to USB ports going to sleep. Because unless it's just a really slow computer.
I was gonna say that, or if there's too many devices on that USB bus. So like if you have even if you have a powered USB hub, if you've got too many devices, and cameras tend to be one of those that sends a little more data than others. Sometimes it'll knock one out when the other one kicks on. I actually have had that issue when trying to run a like the camera for the laser, and then like have another camera just for like viewing or recording on it, and it won't always let both be seen. So
Yeah.
otherwise, could be, yeah, like you say, the port going to sleep. That
Yeah,
could,
a lot of a lot of Windows machines nowadays, they're really really heavy into the whole eco settings. So some of the USB ports will even like after a certain time or whatever, they'll drop back the voltage to try to save electricity. So you need to make sure all that's turned off. And if you're using a computer and you got a lot of stuff plugged up to your USB, I strongly recommend getting one of these powered USB hubs. And the reason is, guys, is the cards that they put in the computers for USB, they only have so much input capability from the motherboard. And so therefore they can only output so much to the USB devices. So if you've got something that pulls a lot of electricity, using something like this that's capable of, outputting, what is it, 5 point something volts, I think it is for USB 3. I can't remember exactly the voltage, but it's a little bit more than the old standard USB. So you get a little bit more voltage to each device using something like this without the threat of the motherboard having to decide who gets the electricity when there's only a finite amount to go around. I was having some disconnect issues using an old, just a standard USB port. And that's what was happening with my machine was the power level in that USB hub was not where it needed to be. Replaced it with this guy here, and no more disconnects. That's a nasty, nasty feeling when you're like 2 hours into an engrave and you get a USB disconnect.
Mhm.
So it's almost that's really, to be honest with you, I think it's worse than a power failure because there's no coming back from that. It's just terrible. That's when you have to just change it from a 180 to a 0, or a 180 to a, what is it, 90? Would it be 90 or 0? Scan angle and start at the top and stop it when it overlaps. But yeah,
and hope your homing switches are accurate.
yeah.
But uh, yeah, like Chris says, cameras are a USB hog. Like to be the only thing on that port. So even if you have a powered USB hub, try to run. I think you separate out like the camera and the laser on one hub, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
don't share. You don't put like dual devices on them. Yeah.
No, even like if I'm running my overhead camera here, I can't run the camera in the MK2. It starts
Right.
getting buggy. Either one camera or the other. It's like they're fighting for that data stream, and it creates problems. So I unplug the camera from this one when I'm using my overhead, and then vice versa. But I've got a USB hub on this enclosure, a USB hub on this enclosure, and then I've got another USB hub over there, and I've got a 25-foot USB cable that comes down to my computer. So, and I've got them, each hub's plugged into a different port on the back of my computer. And I recently installed 5 more USB 3 ports and a PCI card to the back of my machine to add more because I was still running low. And also I did that to take the power off of the power consumption away from the motherboard. And I moved everything down to that PCI card because I was actually having a little bit of struggles when editing videos or during the lives when the video card would really be cranking it up. And then I got the USB buses are pulling out a bunch of voltage. It was like my power supply was having some issues providing enough electricity. And so like videos would start freezing and stuff like that. So it's always better to spread that stuff around.
Mm-hmm. So Bob's building your enclosurezilla, huh?
Yeah. I know you're making something similar. Because I saw you down here with my measuring tape measuring mine when you were here.
Yeah, well, I alluded to building a new bench down in the basement workshop, and that's actually going to help me shuffle some of the machines here that are more production and use, but not so much in my video stuff. And so that gives me more room out here to build one or both enclosures. So I do plan on building, and I'm gonna try really hard to use um, typical tools. I'll try not to use my big, cabinet.
Oh, you're not going to use the
and
saw stop?
well, I'm trying. I want to make the video as approachable for people. I mean, because the typical people getting a laser that don't have an enclosure and don't have a workshop aren't going to have these tools. So I want to kind of say, hey, this, if you have your typical DIY kit from Home Depot with maybe a drill driver and maybe a circular jigsaw, you can cut these pieces out. So I'm going to try to make myself use all those tools instead of cheating and using my big table saw and my CNC to do that build, to kind of help. I like try to inspire people to be able to do it themselves. So yeah, that's once I get a couple things shuffled here, I'm gonna go pick up another expensive piece of plywood, and I'll be able to cut those parts out, start getting that assembled.
Yeah. And ET was asking about the USB card. This is the card that I just put in mine. And it seems to be working fine. It doesn't require a separate power source or anything like that. And it's relatively cheap, but it gives you 4 more USB 3 hubs. And you can see here, I ordered it back in April and been running it in this computer ever since. So that's an option if you have extra PCI slots that you can use, which most people do, because other than if you've added a wireless card or back in the day, 56K modem or something, you should have you should have at least one, and that one should fit in most PCI slots, whether they're the was it EA, blah, 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 all the different IEs, IEX, X, like all the different PCI. It's pretty cross compatible with most machines, but do make sure you have the appropriate port before you order it though. But it works great in my machine so far. I've even thought about adding another one and taking all my USB stuff and moving it. But it's still pulling from the main power supply, but this computer's got like a 250 watt power supply in it. So I just didn't want it coming off the motherboard. When I put wheels on it the other day, so I don't have to pick it up to slide it out and clean it.
Yeah.
You haven't seen that. It's got wheels now. Uh-oh.
Chilton's asking, have either one of you worked with Lone Star adhesive, leatherette patches, or the tri-laser acrylic on the Rolly MK2? I have not worked specifically with the Lone Star adhesives, leatherette. I've done a lot of work with just the your typical leatherette that you get from I pick it up on Amazon, but I think like JD Associates and other places sell it. So I should, people keep asking about Lone Star. I should probably just pick some up and compare it to see. So I do actually have a guy wants some more hats done, so maybe I'll pick some up for that and be able to speak better to it. But I haven't used that specific one. Let's see what else is here. Is your job finally finished?
Yeah, I mean it's way hotter than it needed to be. I don't know if that's my settings, which is probably, but I do need to write my settings on here so that I know what it was. Let me get me a Sharpie, because I'm going to run this same image a couple of different ways just to see if I can find the sweet spot for this machine. So let me see what I ran this at. Let me make my notes before I forget.
Kevin's commenting, using your next tool D1 Pro 40 and the enclosure really stinks. Literally, got a 300 CFM inline fan hooked up to the exhaust. The room still smells strongly of smoke when it's burning. I guess it depends on the enclosure you've got. If you don't have enough inlet into there, the smoke's not going to be able to move through. So your fan's going to be starved for air, and it's not going to actually be moving that 300 cubic feet per minute. The other thing is to try to make sure that your run from your enclosure out to your exhaust going outside is as straight and as short as possible. Try to avoid really sharp bends, And if you can, put that inline fan as close to the outlet as possible, so it's pulling the air more than pushing. Anytime it's pushing, if there's any gaps or pinholes in whatever you have, it's going to be pushing that through. Your pipe now becomes pressurized instead of having suction on it. And so any holes or gaps or leaks are going to then vent out into your room. So I would try to check some of those things. But one of the big ones I see is that people try to have their enclosures be um, too sealed, and it doesn't let the air come in, which it needs to. It needs to draw in clean air to move out the bad air. So
Yeah,
kind of
what
check
was
some of
my
those
statement the other day? Everybody made fun of. You're not building a submarine.
things. You
It
do need a
does.
screen door on this submarine.
Yeah, because if you seal it up completely, it's kind of like if you take a straw and put it in your drink, and then you put your finger over the top of the straw, and you lift the straw, it's going to create vacuum, and it's just going to hold that liquid in there. Same effect. If you do not allow air to go into the enclosure, air is not coming out of the enclosure. And if you think that may be the problem, one way to find out is take yourself something when you build your enclosure. Take yourself a Sharpie or something and just raise the door just slightly and put a Sharpie under there to allow a little bit of a gap around the door. And like if that helps, then try to figure out exactly how much of a gap you need. You can either add a like a some kind of a vent to it, or you can literally just put these little felt feet on there to give it an eighth of an inch gap, and that maybe provide enough air going into the enclosure to make it work better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I got to turn my other fan off too, by the way.
Patrick's here saying hi. If you're not aware, Patrick has a good YouTube channel over there at Light Source Engraving. He does a lot with the fiber lasers, and so if you're looking for good information on that, he is probably a better resource than Clack and I right now, because he's had more of them and he's played more with them and does some really cool projects with a variety of metals and such. So definitely check him out. He had a live stream just before this, and so it's glad you made it back from your delivery, and thanks for hopping over here and checking it out as well.
Yeah. Hey, you remember a couple of weeks ago when I had my little visitor? We had a Jurassic Park moment here at chat.
Yeah, you and your lizard whisperer is this a different one, or is he just hanging out?
I don't know, but it looks like he had a near miss with a cat.
Yeah, dropped his
He's a
tail.
little shorter. He's a little shorter than he used to be. But he looks a little smaller. But yeah, I went over there, turned the fan off, and he was in the floor. I heard something scratching around earlier. I think it was probably him. I was hoping it wasn't a mouse. But yeah, so we got another Jurassic Park episode. Wildlife.
L. Brooks is asking, I purchased my DIY enclosure plans for X12 D1 Pro. Can you think of any updates or edits you would do since your plans were from 2 years ago? I think the biggest thing that I've seen people want to do is they want to add a camera to it. And when I originally designed that one, I was thinking mostly about, I wanted it compact so it could go down in my basement shop and not take up a lot of space. And I wanted a little space below for thicker items. And so that's why it's got the tray. So if you were to stretch it out top to bottom just a little bit, you could add more room for, if you're using the RA2 rotary and going with a 30-ounce tumbler, like those really big ones, that tends to max it out. And then if you want to add a camera, having a few more inches above the honeycomb would help make sure that camera would work. But other than that, it's I still use mine with my my 20-watt X-Tool D1 Pro, and it works great. I did travel with it a little bit before making the lighter setup that we did down at Clack's place this spring. That's why I kind of kept it at 1/2-inch plywood. Is it's still plausibly portable, but it's a bit beefy when you get it built up like that. But those are about the only two things, is maybe just stretch it out so you get a little more depth underneath it and then above it.
Yeah. Oh, somebody's bragging about your lenses.
Uh, yeah. So the Comgrow Z1, I think they changed the module from the original one, and so now it has that smaller lens, and that's kind of typical too of the newer Atom Stack modules have a smaller lens as well. And so I know it's kind of an odd size, so I'm trying to see if there's a way to source those a little bit easier, whether it's making them or finding a place that actually will cut out that size glass. So
Well, somebody was asking about the let's see, Lynch was asking about the tumbler I did. The black is there to stay. It's not going to come off. The metal is actually black. It's not a mark as far as like it's it's not on the coating. Like the coating is no longer on that tumbler. It actually turned the metal itself black. I got my test cup over here. Let me go grab it. But I've washed it washed it in the dishwasher a couple of times. I would be drinking out of it tonight, but I used it yesterday and it had dirt in it from the event, so it's in the dishwasher. But hang on, let me get my test cup and I'll show you.
Chilton is asking about the settings on the leatherette. I'd have to go back and look, but it's actually pretty low of a power setting, and this is both on like a 20 and then also a 40-watt laser in the blue diode. And so I was running in, I want to say, around the 20 to 30% power range for the engraving, and then adjusting the speed there probably closer to 10,000 millimeters a minute kind of settings. And then the power for cutting, I think was pretty quick. It was probably in the 450 to 500 millimeters a minute and 90 to 100% power. I'd have to double check, and that's on my other computer, so I can't bring it up right now. But those are close to what I recall.
Yeah. See, there's that's the engrave right there. That was my two tests. I did one test at like 200 LPI, and then I swapped it over to 300 when I finally hit black with it. But you can see here's some of the other test arrays that I did. And this is 99% isopropyl alcohol, just to show you that this doesn't come off. We'll try to take it off. Ooh, that's cold. Make sure I ain't got no cuts on my hands. And this is a magic eraser. So the way that I went about making sure it wasn't going to come off was with this magic eraser and some isopropyl alcohol and lots of scrubbing. As you can see, I'm actually taking some of the orange off of the cup, but the black is still there. It does not come off. It has, because of the heat, it has turned the stainless black, a lot like what you do with, say, the MOPAs and stuff like that, or the fibers. It heats it up to the point to where it actually causes the stainless to change color, and that's what's happened here. And if I took picture, let me take a picture to show you. But let me zoom in, and that way I could zoom in and show you. You can actually see little tiny, 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 tiny lines. If you zoom far enough in, you can almost see them. But that's zoomed in. Like, it doesn't come off. I've scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed. I've done similar with the MK2 as well. It's all about getting the right balance of heat to get it to do this and not start to warp the material, because you will start see if you get too hot, you'll actually see that it'll sink in, the material sink in the engrave. And I've done that before in some of my testing as well. But yeah, so this was my tester that I was using to try to find those settings. But yeah, it should not come off unless you sand it. Let's find out if it come off if you sand it. Keep them busy.
I mean, eventually. Let's see. While he's sanding that, let's see what else we've got here. David Allen's asking, he's got the 8s or P20 Plus. Love it. Have them on sale for $379. I thought about buying another, but Larry of the company, what would you do? The original one, how did that sand off?
It will sand off.
Yeah, I mean, anything will sand off, get you down to the
Yeah.
down to the stainless. The original P20, both David and I had, and it worked really well. I know maybe with the L2, there were some issues that we both ran into with a couple things. When it works, it's a great laser, but I've heard a lot of people say they've struggled with customer support lately with them. So if you keep that in mind, that it's a good deal, but you might not, you might struggle to maybe get spare parts and other things for it. That might be something keep in your mind. But for $379 and a 20-watt laser, it's probably a good deal in that price range.
Well, I know a few people that have had really good luck with them, but if it does break, I've heard a lot of folks saying they're having trouble with 8s or getting service. The P20, that thing's built like a tank, never had any problems out of it. But like I said, the L2, mine was a little flaky. I wound up with basically a stepper was giving me trouble in it. And so I just quit using it because it was just, I didn't like the way the Z-axis worked on that one either anyway. They just took a good machine in the P20 and I thought it was going to be an upgrade and it wasn't. The P20 was a better work machine because it had less points of failure and it just worked. It was like the old 1950s John Deere's. It just worked,
As opposed to modern John Deere's, where they don't let you work on them.
Yeah. You let something go wrong with one of these now. I mean, just one little wire get messed up and it's the whole thing shut down. The old ones, fuel and spin the motor and give it some air. That's all you had to worry about. It would go. But yeah, the difference between absolute coordinates and I'm guessing he's saying like current position in absolute. What's the difference? Maybe that's the question here. Would you like to emphasize upon that?
Yeah, let me see if I can do a little show and tell here. So
hang on. Let me move.
Yeah, you gotta get you out of the way. So absolute coordinates. So you've got your whole working area here, and you see this little green dot down here. That's going to be kind of your origin point. And absolute coordinates is going to start from this origin point. So if you have this out here at about 120 and 120, it's going to move from this home spot to here to put it. Now, if you have it on current position, wherever your laser happens to be at the time, so here, it's going to then move 120 to 120. And so you may be, if your laser head starts here, it may move up into this origin of your laser. And then user origin is similar to that, where it's going to start. Yeah, you're bouncing around. It's going to start based off of where you have set your origin point. And that could be, you could place that anywhere on here. So absolute coordinates is great. If you've got limit switches, you drop your image here, you home your machine, it's always going to move to this spot unless for some reason it loses home. Whereas your current position, it's going to start from there and then move that far off to the object. So the only time I would not work in absolute coordinates is if something's broken on the machine and it can't find home, or doing something where I'm using like a tumbler jig or something like that. So that's where I would want to actually move the laser to the center spot of the tumbler and tell it to start from current position. And it's not going to be moving, a far distance off. It's going to start from where I'm actually at right at that spot. So hopefully that clears it up a little bit. Just something you got to play around with a little bit to kind of get a feel for. But I tend to always work in absolute coordinates, home the machine, and then know that wherever I move this item, it'll work too. And this is almost critical for working with jigs, because you need to know you have a specific spot to start from and then move a specific distance to go to your jig point. All right. Let's bring the absent clack back.
If you'd have told me that you wanted it, Patrick, I got one of those you could have had.
Yeah,
It's
there
not.
was a question.
It's just a little thing. It's bulky.
There was. I'm trying to find it because I did see someone was asking a couple questions about cameras, and here we go. Sharon Thompson was asking, have either of us had a chance to review the Atom Stack camera or the AC2 or the Minton camera? And got the original Atom Stack camera. You're using it for an overhead one.
It's right there.
It works well. My only gripe about that one is
That's it right there.
it's if you can lock it in place and ensure it's not going to get bumped, it's probably fine. But it's not as rigid as you would hope, and so it doesn't take a lot to move it out of whack, and then you got to recalibrate it all.
Yeah, it uses that little ball, and if
Mhm.
you bump that thing and it moves, then you're, like you said, back to square one.
Yeah. The Minton camera, it's okay. It's a decent camera, but it's really kind of geared towards people who want to kind of do time lapse. That's kind of its cool feature. Outside of that, it's kind of just another webcam. I mean, you can technically control your laser through its app and such, but it kind of adds a lot of kind of mess to it that I don't
Yeah,
care.
because you actually have to put the files on the SD card of the machine and deploy them through there. It's like using one of those apps that comes with the lasers to
Yeah,
run
or an
your
offline
laser. You
controller.
can't. Yeah, you can't. It's a little because it was a little misleading when somebody wanted to send me one of them because they're like, oh, you can control it, through the camera, but you can, but you have to use their software, and you can't you can't do what you can do in Lightburn, communicating directly through USB or through wireless. It's very limited. You can deploy files home the machine and basic stuff. Now, I will say this, like as a, I used it for a while on my 3D printer to remotely view the 3D prints. It works great for that. I mean, it's basically a Wi-Fi camera, but the whole control your laser with it, it wasn't really for me. And that's why it's over there. Uh, Occasionally I'll think of a need for it or a use for it, and I may use it, but it's just really not. Don't If you're getting it to control your laser with it, you'll be disappointed. If you just want to view your laser with it, it works for that. The cameras that I use are like $65, and that's what they look like. And I order them off Amazon, and yes, that is a Steve sticker that got placed in there. But I use those in all my enclosures, and I've got dual cameras in both enclosures. I've got an observation camera and a light burn camera in each enclosure. This is the observation camera that I use for y'all guys to look at the engraves while they're working, and then I have another one that works with light burn because you can't use the same camera for viewing and light burn at the same time. You have to pick one or the other. But those things, matter of fact, I got one coming for the We Create, and they're like $60, and they work great.
Yeah, they're not the cheapest cameras out there, but they've been proven to work well for these. So
Yeah.
It sometimes it's you gotta pay a little bit more to get the quality things, so you don't fight it along the way. But yeah, as far as a light burn camera for your laser, using one of those USB cameras from Amazon and kind of rigging up your own support structure for it seems to be best. The only stock one or commercial available one that I personally have found that is rigid enough to kind of hold in place is that old Comgirl one.
Yeah, now that thing was built like a tank.
You could clamp it onto the back of the laser. You could pick it up by the handle, and I swear you could set that thing back down, and it would still be in alignment because it was solid. So
Yeah, that one did a pretty good job. I never had any major problems out of it.
yep. Just trying to see. Trying to make sure we don't miss anything. If we've missed your question, go ahead and drop it back in, and we'll try to catch it again. Sometimes we get on a roll with some of these, and then we scroll by others.
Yeah, because like right here, you can see this is using that camera, and guys, I got a brand new honeycomb sitting in there. So Steve can't make fun of my nasty honeycomb anymore. I'm gonna take that one out and like really clean it some more. But I got a new honeycomb put in there. The cool thing about it is because the honeycomb is at the exact same location as my other one was, there's no need to recalibrate or realign anything. This is why I love cameras. And if you get a good, accurate camera, this is why you will love them as well. Let's make this 5x5. All right, send it. Wait, home the machine first. That would have made a noise. So this is and this is using this camera that I just put the links in the description. So I'm gonna zoom down. There's where my cut was sent to. And there it is. And that's zoomed way in. So for Lightburn camera, just to be able to design and maximize the use of your material, that's pretty doggone accurate. That thing's, like I said, not very far off at all. And I haven't calibrated that camera since I did the remodel on EnclosureZilla. So there you
go. Greg's asking, can you adjust how snap to grid or from piece to piece? Mine turned on, but not too snappy. You can, I believe if you hold either, I look at my keyboard here, Control or Command, it will adjust kind of how snappy it is, and allow you to get a little bit closer, have it happen sooner or later. But I'm not sure you can actually adjust like the distance by default to where it snaps to. And so sometimes you do have to end up turning it off for a little bit to make your fine tune adjustments without it just getting snuck and snapped into the nearest object. But yeah, try using your control key to maybe tame it down a little bit. But I hear you. There are times that I get frustrated with it too, and you're kind of like just turn it off for a bit so it's not pulling my pieces together when I don't want it to.
Yeah, Patrick said he's got the Mint and he uses it basically as a wireless Lightburn camera. So, yeah. Hey, like I said, it wasn't something that I liked, but hey, if it works for you, which I guess with a fiber is probably not, you're probably doing a little different work with it.
True Tech's asking, anyone engraved directly onto a clear coated guitar body, maybe an eagle? I haven't done the clear coated guitars, but I did have some requests for pool cues, and they tend to have a pretty heavy coating on the outside. And it was a little hit or miss. Eventually you could get through. But on some of them, it kind of just depends on what that coating is and such. So, you definitely, it'd be the thing to kind of play around with. Unfortunately, without being able to test on the actual piece, you don't know, exactly what type of coating and finish is on there and how much it's going to be. So if you do it, my recommendation is to get it fixed in place. However you do that, and run your burn, go conservative on your settings, start light, and then, just add some passes to it to see if you can kind of get it to where you want it. This kind of goes back to be very cautious on one-of-a-kind items or expensive items that are either expensive or irreplaceable. Those are sometimes just the jobs you want to turn down.
Yeah, I was fixing to say, unless you're charging a really good penny for it, sometimes it's not worth the risk.
Yeah.
Unless they can provide you with a piece of test material or something.
Mm-hmm.
But Jim, that is a really good question. They say they are. They say they were. last time I heard from them, they said that was the plan, but I don't know. And until it shows up, I'm not going to say I am or ain't, but it's the F1. I love that little guy over there. Done me a really good job this weekend, but it's because it's so small. It doesn't consume a lot of electricity. Has such a small footprint. I literally just set it up on the table and ran the dog stew out of it. The biggest thing that I engraved was a keychain. Doing one-offs like that, I don't need to do 50. I don't need to do 100. I don't need a conveyor. I need a laser that is highly accurate that can do those things and do them reasonably fast. So where the Ultra would fall as far as my use, it's not really big enough to replace any of these guys, but it's not as compact and portable as that one. So I don't know. I would, like I said, I'm not saying I won't try it out, but I don't know what my feelings are on it. So whenever it shows up, we'll figure that out then. But it uses a lot of the same technologies as the F1. I do like the fact that they've added a camera, which if you center everything in the work area and use jigs, you don't need a camera with the F1, but that would be something interesting.
I think the interesting thing on that one is the combination of the camera and the conveyor and how well that works. That's kind of the one of the bigger differences. If you're just straight up looking for a fiber laser, that's not the way to do it. It's expensive, and like you mentioned, the pictures I've seen and the videos I've watched. I look at that and go, okay, that is no longer a portable laser any easier than it is to take the MK2. It's pretty big. It's pretty bulky as compared to the F1, and it's a 20-watt fiber. You can get a 20-watt fiber any day for under $2,000 from a lot of these places. So it's really going to come down to how do that camera, the conveyor. They're talking about some of the curved stuff again. I think that is going to push others to innovate a little bit, but I don't know. Yeah, I'd love to play with one, but I'm probably just I haven't been as much of a fanboy as they want and promoting it blindly as they want, and so here I am just sitting on the sidelines. So
Yeah, and like I said, I've watched their live. I've watched every video anybody has done on that conveyor. And every time they show the products, my OCD just starts ticking because there's going to be. It doesn't look like to me it's doing a good enough job at centering graphics that I'm going to want to use that function as opposed to building me a jig and putting 20 of them under the comm marker, 20 watt, and hitting a button. I just, because I like things to be centered. And if that thing messes up on blanks and you have 50 blanks out of 100 that aren't centered, then I would rather just build a jig and just load the jig, set it in there, hit the button. Swap it out, put another loaded jig in there, hit the button. Swap it out, hit another loaded jig, hit the button. I don't know that I would want to pay that much money extra for the conveyor option. I told them if they do send me one, do not send me the conveyor because I've had terrible luck. I've tried 2 of those conveyors so far, and I don't like them. I can't get them to work the way that I want to, because the one thing that I will say that I saw X-Tool did, and I was hats off to them for that. When I watched the live, they had the conveyor and just kind of sat it on top of the machine. But when you look at some of the other videos, they actually have a little bracket that connects to the base plate that indexes into the conveyor. Because I was a little disappointed when I saw the conveyor was just sitting on top of the work area and had no way of squaring it with the machine. But then when I went to doing a little bit more digging, it actually does have a little metal bracket that you attach to the base plate that indexes into the conveyor. So I think that's helpful, but I still don't know. I'll just have to play with it. Like I said, it would take some convincing to get me to believe that that conveyor is going to be accurate to that extent without some kind of human intervention.
yeah, well, and I mean, you just kind of showed it on yours. The cameras get close, but they're slightly off. This was done on the P2, and it was slightly off, and you can definitely show that. or see
Mhm.
that. And if that's like you say, I want it to be centered. And if it's not, then setting up a jig and
Mhm.
swapping things out is going to be faster in the long run because you're not going to be making mistakes. So, not to say that I think it's going to be bad. I just think for what you're paying for it, I'm
For an
sure.
automated process like that, there's going to be some margin of error, in my opinion. I don't see it being 100% precise. But
Yeah.
who knows? They may surprise me. But until I get it in the shop, all I can base it on is what other people say. And when they go, "Oh yeah, that's centered pretty well," you know what I mean? When you hear the person just trying to machine out and say that's centered pretty well, pretty well don't mean it's centered. It's either centered or it ain't. I mean,
Yeah.
so that's we'll see. I'm not going to knock it because I haven't tried it, but some of the videos that I've watched, the results that they were getting would not cut it with me because I'm OCD. This weekend I had one dog tag that I screwed up on because I forgot when I changed the text to recenter it and it was over to the left just a little bit. I threw that one in the garbage and did the lady another one because I didn't want to tell nobody I did it and then it be even though it was only like a millimeter off, I could visibly look at it and see it's too far to the left. But what it was I was doing so many so fast I changed the name, but I forgot to relocate the text box to the center of the work area. And the dog that I did right before that one had one more letter in its name than this one did. So things like that, bother me. It may not bother other people, but I like for it to be pretty exact. And that's just my OCD. But yeah, the weak rate didn't do a terrible job on that picture for a 40 watt. I mean, it ain't terrible, but my settings were way too hot. But it's literally like almost 3D. Look at that. It's
Yeah.
embossed. Ain't that what they're calling it now? Embossed.
Yeah.
So, but it looks okay. Not terrible. That's just the first test run at 318. I'm gonna do the next one at like 250, and then I'm gonna walk it down.
Verl's asking about the X Tool Air Assist. Is the more expensive one at $140 much better than the ones for $50, $60? Uh, Depends on which one you're looking at. If you're talking about your typical X Tool D1 Air Assist kit that has that kind of aquarium pump, that one, no, there's not a lot of difference between that and many of the generics you find online. There was one I was sent to play with from Geek Bee. Actually, I thought their cone was a little bit nicer than the one that came with on the X Tool machine and such. Now, if you're looking at the X Tool S1 Smart Air Assist versus just a typical one, yes, that one is nice because it communicates with the laser to turn it on and off or to set the airflow rate. Now, that one definitely would be worth going over just your typical air pump because it can be controlled by the laser. But the other ones, I mean, I honestly sometimes get them mixed up between the few manufacturers, unless they've slapped their name on it, which some of them do. They are all fairly identical. Now, you can sometimes get a bum one that's a little weaker or a little louder or whatnot than others, but I wouldn't pay $140 for those. Yeah, get the Atom Stack one.
Now, I will tell you, if you run one really, really hard for like 2 years, you can actually have the pump go out. Because Klein did it the other night. Yeah, Klein's got my gray one now since he blew his up. We took it apart and I salvaged all the usable parts out of it and put it in my toolbox. But yeah,
This is the frustrating thing. 2 Atom Stack air pumps.
yeah.
There's black, gray. One is 12 volt. One is 24 volts.
Yeah, the 24-volt ones, I like them better, but you do have to be careful and not plug the wrong power supply in.
Yeah.
And some like I think the 12-volt ones are the ones that are made to be powered.
Through
Well, no,
laser.
the 24-volt ones are now. Well, Jim, like I said on that, on the X tool, it looked like it created a bracket. I don't know if it's standard equipment, but I did. Like I said, when I saw that, they didn't use it in the video that they did on launch night, but when you dig into the machine and look at some of the promotional photos and stuff, it's actually attached in those. But I have a similar one.
Is this the one from the longer that you're
Yes.
dragging out?
Yes. And it looks remarkably same. Like, I mean, it's very similar. Hate it. Unless you're using their app, I hate it. Because it does not index anywhere on the machine.
Yeah, I had the roller accessory for the laser pecker too. There again, cool in theory, but unless everything was perfect, um, there was no way to like, it needed a guide rail system or something. So that it worked okay as a typical roller rotary, but as far as like a feeding a larger piece through, they had the support things that didn't work as well, and trying to have it, bolting the laser to it and have it move along. I just think that knurled metal, it just couldn't grab everything as well as it could. So,
well, and like I said, those machines, like this little guy, wow, we really need to do some dusting in here. But like this little guy, this is a fun little machine without that conveyor. With that conveyor, you will pull your hair out. I mean, this little guy is fun. But now using their app, okay, maybe it'll work, but it's hard to get those conveyors square unless you physically square it ahead of time. And it was just a little cumbersome. I did not enjoy it. It took the fun out of laser engraving, and so. But now this little guy is actually pretty cool. This thing you can literally stick it on top of stuff and burn logos in it and stuff. And it's it's kind of like the LP that you have. All the power connections are here, and so it really doesn't need the stand. So it's pretty neat.
Oh.
But the attachments were a little disappointing.
yeah, the kit I got from Laser Pecker also had the little battery unit. So, I mean, it could be completely portable if you're using the app through the phone or the computer to Bluetooth. And that's one of the lasers where Bluetooth actually works pretty well. So, they've got a few things going for them with that.
I may know pretty soon. We'll see. We'll see if they follow through. I'm supposed to be getting one of the LP4s, is what we're going to call it here at the shack. I don't know if it's coming in or not yet. I haven't heard. But they claim, last I heard, they said they had them in the U.S. warehouse. It wouldn't take long to get here.
Very cool.
So we'll see.
I think you'll enjoy it.
From the videos that I watched, because I researched it for like 3 days before replying to their email, and of course I talked to you because I knew you had one. I think it's usable. I think it's going to be right there with the F1 as far as usability, because it's basically the same principle.
Yep.
As long as the software isn't too buggy, because I know that, which now the LP4 says is Lightburn compatible from what I read. I don't know.
Yes.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, the little longer nano works great with Lightburn until you start adding attachments and it gets hinky. But I think that falls back on the controller.
Yeah.
But they offered to send me the conveyor for the laser pecker, and I'm like, no, I don't care for that. I'll never use it. The chuck, I could probably use the chuck, because they do. I have found that those little guys, for people that want to do tumblers and coasters, keychains and stuff like that, that's actually a profitable little machine if you stayed in the right with the right blanks, using tumblers, keychains, business cards, small things. You could actually make a decent bit of money with it. I mean, I did 2 jobs with the Atom Stack. All the other jobs I did this weekend, I did with the F1. So if the F1 had been the only machine I had at the event this weekend, it would have only knocked me out of $30 because that was the only 2 jobs that I couldn't have done on that one. So definitely would be something that you could literally put it in a milk crate and carry it into an event and make money with it. So that's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I think it'll pair nicely with the F1. The only difference being is the F1 has a little bit better enclosure for running at
Yeah.
events like that. So, but it'll hopefully, get your jigs kind of work for
Be
that
competitive. It'll be
you
competitive. I
could
think it'll
be
be competitive.
you'll be running 2 barrels at those shows, and so
Oh yeah.
you'll really keep Klein busy with those sales. Then you're not.
Hey,
they're
he
fucking
actually
commission
he
rate.
actually ran XCS for the first time at the event the other day.
Oh,
He
nice.
did 2 dog tags himself. Now he stumbled through it the first go around, but the second go around he got it good. So he got a crash course of how to run XCS while I think I was eating or doing something. He's like, "You want me to try to burn this one?" I was like, "Sure, go ahead." He's like, "Oh, what software is this?" So,
Nice.
but yeah, my air conditioner has quit. 78 degrees in here.
Nancy Richards is asking, do either of us know if the Rolly XW 30 watt is a good buy for cutting 1/4 inch MDF? If not, what do you recommend? Need minimum of 24 by 15 inch bed size, prefer larger, of course.
Ooh,
It should cut through that. I'll be honest, I try not to cut too much MDF. I did a lot of it when I first got my CO2 laser, but depending on the MDF you got, a lot of the resins in there really smell bad, and some of them actually have formaldehyde in them. So between the extra residue that came out of that and just the smell, I opted to not cut it as so much. But a 30 watt should be able to cut through that without too much hassle. But again, it's going to depend on the actual composition of your MDF. They're kind of like plywood. They're not all equal. So if you can, try to find some that's formaldehyde free, and also make sure it's not like hardboard masquerading as MDF.
yeah, MDF can be very tough, cutting wise. But now the MK2, the new one, is it going to be? Because it's saying it's a 24 by 15. So yeah, it would suffice as far as bed size or engraving area. So I like the MK2 for a 30-watt machine. It does seem to have a little extra oomph to it. I think it's because they have compressed the dot down as small as they have. It does a little better job of cutting through because the power is concentrated in a smaller area. But I mean, I don't know that it would. It's going to do as well as any other 30 watt on the market, in my opinion. Maybe not as well as a 40 or 70, but the MK2 is actually a really hot 30 watt.
Mm-hmm.
Verl, everything. Let's see, all but 2 jobs I did on the F1, and one of them was the lady wanted my little Chihuahua display, and another was just they wanted some pieces cut out like a little sign. And then I did make myself one more jig that I forgot to make for my whiskey flasks. And I got there and I realized I didn't have a jig for them, so I had to throw that together real quick. But that was the only 3 things I used for the Atom Stack for the whole day. Everything else was on the F1, and I stayed like as fast as I could build and charge for one. I had to engrave another one and charge for it. It was just repeat and rinse. We did have a little bit of a lull for probably about 2 hours to where it slowed down enough that we could eat a sandwich. But it was busy.
Sounds like my day last year at the woodworking expo is
Mm-hmm.
I was on my feet talking to people for probably 4 hours before I was like, okay, I need to go get a bottle of water.
Yeah. Well, I had a cooler. I was equipped on that. I would go with a fisheye. If you want problem-free focusing without having to have your camera 48 inches in the air, go with a fisheye. That's what I use here, and that's what I showed y'all earlier. in Lightburn with my enclosure Zilla. That's what this is. This is a fisheye camera, but when you do the calibration, Lightburn actually flattens that image out for you, and so it doesn't look fisheye. But the sell off for having the fisheye is it really doesn't matter how high the camera is. You can get it to work. Now, is the fisheye as accurate as say a flat lens would be if it was so many inches above the work area? Probably not, because with that fisheye and it flattening out, there are a lot of measurements that have to be made. But you saw how accurate mine is. I mean, it's within a millimeter accuracy, and that's totally acceptable in my opinion for a Lightburn camera. You should still frame or use a jig. Mark, I don't have to. I cheat. But typically, yes, you will have to recalibrate to have the most precise measurements. My honeycomb goes up and down in my enclosure, and so I raise the honeycomb up until I get the surface of the material where my focus is. So in my situation, it doesn't matter. If I throw an ammo can in there and drop it down to where I'm engraving the top of the ammo can, my camera is still going to be accurate because I calibrated it at that level. So the thickness of material with my setup doesn't affect it. But typically, yes, it would.
It's a good way to do it.
That's why I like mine. Up to 12 inches thick, I don't have to worry about it. I got 12 inches of travel in my Z-axis on my bed, on my floor of my machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you've got the space, having that extra flexibility really makes a difference.
So like right there, that is like if I was engraving, let's say plywood, but if I wanted to engrave, I don't know, the top of this tumbler, all I gotta do is lower the bed. And there you go. And now I can engrave the top of that tumbler if I wanted to. Not that I would. I have engraved the bottoms of them, but not the top. But as long as the focus of the top of that tumbler is brought back up to where my focus is set at, the camera will still be very accurate.
You might have a little trouble engraving that clear.
I would say if. But yeah, look at that clean honeycomb. That's the new daddy wheels. Somebody was asking earlier about that. It's what is it? The width of it is like 95 by. It's 950 by 450, I think. I have to look. Hang on.
See, now they're just gonna be like, do you even use that laser? That honeycomb's too clean.
Well, I have the old one down here in the bottom.
See, I cheated.
Listen,
I cheated, and the second one I got is actually painted black. So
that ain't even the same honeycomb. But yeah, this one's like 950 by 450, I think. So I measured it before I took my other one out to make sure they were the same size. It's the exact same size as the Nivel honeycomb that I used to run. The only difference is this one hasn't had, 900 hours of burning done to it. But I'm just kind of putting it in there, testing it. I'm going to do some cutting on it just to make sure it doesn't like melt and fall apart or anything. But when I took the other one that I've been running out and kind of twisted and, did like a torture test on both of them, it held up just as good as the Nivel that I've been running. As with any big honeycomb like that, you're going to want to put some supports underneath it so that it doesn't try to sway in the middle. And I use magnets for that typically because they stick to the honeycomb and hold it to the bed. Yeah, I think my air conditioner has quit. I may need to check my filter.
Uh-oh.
It's like 78 degrees in here. It's hot. Echo, what's the temperature outside?
Right now, it's 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Tonight, expect a low of 71 degrees.
Yeah, see, it's almost as hot in here as it is outside. That's no good.
It's only 73 here.
Well, you are in
And that's
southern Canada over there.
and that's with me working in here all day and running the CNC and the shop vac. The shop vacs create a lot of heat.
Yeah, which I have been running. Now I have been had the exhaust running for the past three hours or so, playing with that machine. Maybe that's it, because that one's not doesn't have an outside vent, so it could have hurt me on that. The cam will change the experience setting up jobs. Oh yeah, I love having my cameras. Uh, the the We Create does a good job setting up jobs without it, because they've got it to where it's the honeycomb has this, or the little blades has this little piece that kind of like the rolly, to where the corner of the work area is the corner, like the origin dot. But I still like to be able to like screen capture and preview what it looks like. So it's more of a I've got used to it thing than it is a gotta have it.
Mm-hmm.
Travis is asking about a good cleaner for a honeycomb. Heavy degreasers, pressure washer if you got it. If not, a good old fashioned water hose, or a good trip to the car wash.
I mean,
Use the tire degreaser to car wash.
if you don't let it get too terrible, you can clean it with your typical like Dawn Power Wash works well, or Simple Green is another one that'll break down. That's really good on like table saw or circular saw blades too as well. A lot of times people think their blades have gotten dull. It's just the pitch and the resins building up on it. You just want to spray it down, let it soak for a little bit, and then maybe scrub have a few spots where it's a little tough, but got to be careful with the pressure washers. They can be a little too aggressive, but they can be helpful. I actually
Not
picked
if you have the DeWalt one. It's not that aggressive.
I was going to say you could pick up the Harbor Freight has a electric power washer that is kind of like high pressure water hose. It's not going to hurt too much, but it's about just the right pressure to clean off a honeycomb. And so the other one at LA Awesome is another one that works really well. The trick there is spray it down, let the degreaser do its work, break down the material, then rinse it off. If you try to like just spray it down and clean it right away, it's not going to do as much. But give it a chance to rest, and then it'll break down that residue.
Yeah, I use the Purple Magic in my little DeWalt. See, my pressure washer is not like a full blown. It's literally a residential like house and car pressure washer. Like
Yeah.
so, it's like 3,300 psi. But I use that Purple Magic or Purple Power degreaser, and just kind of coat it with that. Let it set out there and just on the porch for a little while. Go back, coat it again, and after it's sat for 30 minutes or so, then I'll just hit it with the pressure washer with the automotive cleaning bit or whatever tip, and it does a good job. But now I let mine get nasty, because I do lots of cutting, and that one honeycomb has been in service here for a couple of years. That's a lot of miles on a honeycomb. Oh, Steve fell.
This thing.
Oh yeah, that's smaller than mine.
Yeah, it's not even it's like half yours.
Yeah.
But I think you can find them on sale at Harbor Freight for like $60-$70 every so often. And that works okay. Like I say, it adds a little boost to the the garden hose pressure, but not a whole lot more.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to clean a sidewalk with it. Maybe a spot on the sidewalk, but inexpensive addition to your shop.
Mm-hmm.
Well, most of the lasers have their default home set up, And so, that's usually in the top left corner is going to be the home point for XCS on the X tool machines. And then you would just set in go into XCS and then develop your work in there in the work area. It should move to those exact points. There's no real setting them differently from that.
Yeah, can you even? I guess if you put it on rotary or whatever, it defaults to current position. But I don't think there's no way of taking it off of absolute since they came out with the new machines. Is there? I haven't tried.
Um, it wants to update my software. Let's close that. Yeah, I don't think it will let you adjust that.
I think say I haven't seen it. If it is, I'm
And
sitting here trying to find it now.
Machine's on right now.
I can flip one on.
Just trying to see if it'll let me go into settings. Nope, I got to be connected to it to get into the settings. So,
well, coincidentally, I got 3 of them sitting around. so I'll power up the closest one to me, and we'll go from there. Let me see here.
although, coincidentally, this might.
Ooh, mosquito house. Settings.
So, in case anyone was wondering about a 40-watt laser in leatherette on the X-Tool S1, I was running at 140 millimeters a second and 10% power for the Engrave. And 65% power and 16 millimeters a second for the cut.
Yeah, I don't see no way of turning it off. Not on the P2 anyway. Unless it's in this, there is a XCS update, but it's a beta, and so I'm gonna not partake of the beta at the moment. But it doesn't say anything in the release notes about adding that functionality.
So yeah, I'd be curious connecting it to my D1 being the older machine, but I'm pretty sure it's just going to default to your upper left as being home. And as long as you home the machine, which most of them will do automatically, and even like the S1, it just kind of it's constantly updating its position, and it's showing you that in XCS as well. So that even that one, I don't think you can adjust from there because it just is kind of natively in. That's where I'd want to play with the D1 to see if it's still true with that one as well. That one would be more likely where it could have those options. But
yeah, I don't think it. I don't want to dig mine back down again, but I don't think it does in that one either. I had mine hooked up the other day, and the settings and everything looked to be the same as if it was a D1 Pro or whatever. But I haven't. I had, like I said, that new beta, but I didn't see anything in the release notes saying that it added absolute coordinates.
yeah.
Now that old laser box basic, that's all it used was absolute or current position.
Yeah. Well, that was before they had the homing
any,
switches in them. So
didn't have limits.
But Milk Money Mini Farm says the pressure washers are $89 at Harbor Freight. Well, I bought mine a few years ago. It was cheaper. Everything's gone up lately.
Oh yeah.
So, but it's still, I mean, at that price to have something that, like if you're doing this for a business and you want an easy way to clean your honeycomb at home, something like this, just a basic electric pressure washer will help get that task done quickly, get you back to working. So.
Oh yeah. Yep. But yeah. You're making fun of my honeycomb. Show you something here, Steve. Evo.
I was just commenting on how clean it is.
This one's clean now. I cleaned it the other day. I mean, you can still see marks on it and stuff, but I mean, that thing.
Is this like Is this like the kid saying, "Mom, I cleaned my room. I really did."
But do you know how much stuff I cut? Like there's been probably about 800 ink bandits cut on this, and ain't no telling how many ink caddies for May May. And I mean, this thing right here gets run through the mills, and it's kind of like the wheels on your car. No matter how many times you wash them, there's always those little crevices that you can't get into unless you sit there with, you know what I mean? And so, no matter how many times I clean this, there's places in there you're not going to be able to get clean. I don't care who you are. Without acid, you're not getting in there.
I'm telling you, I got the fix. I got the fix for you. You just get one that's pre-blacked.
That seems like that would, I mean, does it not take the black off of it?
Well, it does sometimes. You can kind of see on this one.
Okay. All right. If it's like you put the 70 on that, it won't be black.
You get the right stuff on there. It's going to leave some residue, but that was one of their selling points on this is the special coating keeps it from getting gunked up as much, and I think it's just it hides the gunk.
Yeah. Well, that special coating is only going to hold up to a certain amount of watt output too.
But
you get that material hot enough, it's gonna start coming off of there.
Yeah, this one, steel bed as well. They have both metric and imperial right next to each other on the side, so you take your pick, whichever one you want.
Handy.
But yeah, I mean, what can you say about a honeycomb? It's steel, it's flat. And
that's what when Daddy Wheels or whatever asked me if I wanted to take one and try it out, I'm like, oh, and do a video on it. I'm like, there's only so much I can say about a honeycomb. I mean, it's black and silver. It works, and I haven't cut a hole in it yet. I mean, some of them are sturdier than others. I have seen some that were cheaper made that the pieces would kind of get out of alignment with each other if you hit it wrong or something. But so far, it seems to be as well built as any of the other honeycombs I have in the shop. So,
and some of them will have a tighter weave. The holes are smaller, so that technically there's more holding it up, but that's also more areas for flashback. So that can be both good and bad and such. So there's some differences there, but not enough to short of, is it aluminum or, like you say, completely flexible?
Yeah. You don't want anything that's just too flexible. It's not gonna be. It's not gonna be like rock solid. It needs to be supported equally all the way around the work area. But you don't want one that when you sit it in there under its own weight, it looks like a taco.
Yeah.
So.
And True Tech, same thing with the honeycomb, the laser, the air. Hopefully, you've got an air assist cone on there. That stuff will attract material really quick, especially on these diodes where they have such a short focal length. It's so close to the vaporization and such. So it's definitely a reminder to clean your honeycomb, clean your the nozzle, the air assist nozzle, clean the rails and whatnot, and keep up on that. Otherwise, it'll build up and it'll get worse. It'll start giving you bigger issues, and the cleanup will be harder. So, but Mia, thanks for the compliment. Glad you're finding the videos useful. If you haven't checked out this guy down there, check out his videos as well. He's got a lot of cool stuff out there, the Clack Shack. So glad they're helping you out, and that's kind of my goal. As I try to drop little, even in the product reviews, I try to drop in some tips and tricks as well. So,
Mark, one thing that I will tell you, I got the lights turned off. You can't see them. Hang on. If you'll find yourself, especially if you have a steel honeycomb, find yourself some decent magnets. They'll give you at least 1/4 of an inch, if not a 1/2 inch gap underneath your honeycomb, and stick those magnets to the underside of the honeycomb. And when you set it on top of the work area, it'll help support the middle and evenly support the honeycomb all the way through. You can see the shadows of my honeycombs or of my magnets underneath there. I don't have any in the middle, but it's because if I have small things, I usually put them on the left side or the right side. Only way I use the middle area is if it's like a big sheet of wood and I'm cutting, and I haven't had any problems with it sagging. But you can see there's 4 magnets on each end of that honeycomb that kind of space it up off the cutting surface underneath there. That also, I saw somebody saying the other day that their cutting surface warped because of the laser heat, I guess. And in my opinion, if that happened, that means that that laser was entirely too focused on that honeycomb, which means either they were real deep in their focus, or they didn't have a space between the honeycomb and the cutting surface.
Yeah, something will cause that to. You'd have to have a lot of heat, a lot of focused energy there on that. But so yeah, on larger CO2 lasers, they actually have kind of they'll have a frame. They'll either have the slats that the honeycomb goes on top of, or like mine, it's got the square frame, but it's got, I think, 3 supports throughout the middle. It's just a welded frame so you still have those bars under certain areas, but not the whole thing. And so they do typically have some form of support in the middle rather than just able to sag. So definitely worth trying to, like you say, add some magnets or add something non-flammable that's as narrow as you can be, but adds a little support.
Little pieces of glass. Glass works. I've used clear acrylic before. I've took and cut some little pieces of clear acrylic. Now you can melt clear acrylic a little bit once it gets some buildup on it, but just put something in there that's not going to catch fire. Magnets are really really good to use because they're metallic. Now some of them have, like the ones I used in here actually had the little plastic caps on them. But those don't take long to disappear after you do a lot of jobs. So
Yeah, that was Lance with the A24 plate. So I don't remember if that one is aluminum, and that definitely has a difference over the stainless steel. So some of those honeycombs, most of them come with some sort of metal sheet. Some of them are thin aluminum, some of them are thin
yeah,
stainless
this
steel.
one that came with this new honeycomb is it's thinner than the one that came with nibble. Now I think it's still adequate if you space it up enough, but yeah, some of them they are making them thinner now than in the past. I've got like 3 or 4 little small pieces up there and they're all different
Hmm.
thicknesses. But yeah, I mean, if you're building your own enclosure, there's nothing that says you can't take a few little self-drilling screws or pop a few holes in it and screw it to the bottom of your enclosure to make sure it stays flat. Especially if you're gonna get some magnets that have the screw hole in them and screw them down there also. That way it holds it still. You don't have to worry about the plate moving out from under the work area. Uh, all of my steel plates in mine are fixed. The one in this enclosure over here, I drilled holes in the very corners of it and put screws into the enclosure to hold it down to make sure it doesn't try to shift or because a lot of times too it can act like a spring and kind of put a little pressure on the honeycomb and kind of lift it. And so there's a lot of things that you can do to kind of keep that from happening. But yeah, getting that stuff hot enough with it being below a honeycomb, and which now the Adam Stacks honeycomb is a little thinner. It's only like a half inch thick. So maybe that's why that machine did it. Is because that machine does have a very long focal reach. So maybe that's what caused it. And it was probably near the edge to where the heat didn't dissipate fast enough. Because that one does have the half inch thick instead of 3/4 inch thick honeycomb. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, true. But and it's just a sacrificial piece of metal. Yeah, like you
Yeah.
mentioned, you went and got 16 gauge steel, just as we advised. Make sure it's not galvanized, just straight steel, and or similar. I mean, you could get by. A lot of people get just the cement board as a fireproof surface on the bottom of their enclosures as well. So
Yeah. Well, we're about to wind it down, guys. So if we hadn't got your questions, drop them out there.
yeah,
But
Dennis, that'll happen, and that's actually it's just that means your air assist and everything's working really well, and that vaporized material's got to go somewhere. It cools off, and it's going to collect somewhere. So it's actually best to have it on that because that's the easiest thing to clean. It's better that than in your honeycomb or actually in your fan. And
yeah,
speaking of, if you're a heavy user of your exhaust fan, you're going to want to take a look at it because as you're pulling all that smoke and vapor out, it's collecting along your piping and in your fan, and that will start to affect the efficiency and can actually eventually become a hazard itself. So um, if you've watched Clax or my videos, we have some of these fans that module pops out. You can get in there and clean it easily. On your
Well, you can get in there and
actual
clean it. I don't know
inline,
how easy it is to get clean.
well, it's easier to get at the fan to clean
Yeah.
it. Some of these,
Yeah.
you get those smaller,
Yeah, that one
like
up
an
there.
original Vivo Sun, that's hard to get at the blades on that. So
Yeah, that one up there, it has like two little clamps, and you unsnap the clamps, and the fan slides in between the two cones, and you pop it out, and you can get in there with cleaner and a rag. I don't advise using a pressure washer on that, but you can get in there with a cleaner and a rag and wipe it down and get it clean. If you wait too long, I will tell you, it'll start sounding like it's got rocks in it. Because you'll get so much gunk and build up that the fan will actually start striking the outer carrier as it goes around. I have seen that happen, but you're gonna have to run a lot. Miss Sharon's asking, what can you clean the plastic orange box over the fan with the MK2? It said it appears to be clean, but the orange covering is dirty. Isopropyl alcohol, and I think if you're talking about the cone, the little I don't know what it's plastic, the little plastic semi-transparent cone. I would think you could also use. Well, my mind just left me. The fingernail polish remover, acetone, to clean it if it's like really really bad. But don't use too much acetone. Don't let it soak in it.
you can remove that. I've heard on some of the earlier models that the factory may have used a little Loctite on some of the bolts. So if those screws aren't coming out, you might want to reach out to Dimitri or other tech support through the Lasermatic group, and they'll help you with how to fix that, and they'll probably send you some new screws. But I think all that was on just some of the earlier ones. I think the latest ones they're good. They corrected that, but yeah, you should be able to remove both the top and the bottom to clean those out.
All right. Well, I think that's about it, guys. It's been a long weekend. I do need to get some sleep. I got to go back to work tomorrow. Brandy's spoilt. She gets to be off this week. But I do got to go to work tomorrow. So I will go try to. I'm fixed to see what's wrong with my air conditioner. Why it's 79 degrees in here, 78 degrees in here. It is actually cooling down now, so it could have been that big 6-inch fan or 4-inch fan over there running wide open for the past couple of hours.
Yeah,
could have had me a little drafty in here. Could have been pulling the outside air in. So because just like when we talked with enclosures, the same thing goes with your ventilation. If you're sucking air and blowing it outside, the outside air's got to be coming in somewhere to allow that to happen. And so that does happen here in my shop. And that's one reason why this machine, I've got it set up, because this is the one I run most of my big jobs on. It pulls air directly through the wall from the outside, brings it through the enclosure, and then blows it right back outside, so that when I'm running it for 8 hours a day, it's not constantly pumping my air conditioning outside. So that's not the case with this setup over here. This setup over here pulls air out of the shop and blows it outside.
You are lucky that you don't have the cold winters we have.
Well, when I turn my enclosure fans on, you can watch the cat door, because you don't have a cat door. And it's got that little plastic flap, and you can see it doing this when the enclosure.
Yeah, no, I mean, same thing here. So. Like, if I don't have my entry door shut tight, and I turn the laser fan on, you'll see that kind of pull in, or if that is tight, you'll actually hear the garage doors kind of suck in a little bit because it's trying to pull air from somewhere. But yeah, I mean that air in from the outside air in and out, great until it's sub-zero air and you're freezing your laser and your material. Just trying.
Well, I don't have that. I don't have that problem, Steve.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have how many winters you've experienced here, but we usually wear shorts around Christmas. So.
Well, so do I. I just don't go outside.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, appreciate you stopping by. If you hadn't already, subscribe to me and Steve both. I am currently trying my best. I think I'm not gonna be able to pull this one off. I was trying to hit 30K by the end of June, or technically by June the 22nd, which is my birthday. I'll be 30 years old. Yeah, but I don't think I'm gonna make it. I'm at 29,157. So if you're one of those folks that's been watching, but just got to think about hitting the subscribe button, you can hit that button. It's okay. Go ahead. It's not gonna hurt you, for mine or Steve. But I do got some more video coming. Like I said, the We Create got the 40-watt We Create in. Testing it out, seeing what it can and can't do. And so far, I think, especially for a newer person that, wants an enclosed machine, it's not terrible. I am spoilt. I'm used to light burn. I'm used to what I'm used to. So I have to kind of back away sometimes and look at it from a new person's perspective, at what you would look for in a machine. But so far, it's performing okay. I'll let you know more after I've had a chance to play with it. It came in the other day, and since then it's been piece jam, piece jam, piece jam. And so really haven't got to do as much testing with it as I like to do. But anyway, till next time, what you got coming? I know you got something coming.
So I've been getting caught up at work, but like this week, I built that laser bench down in the basement shop so I can get that set up. I gotta do a little more work with this Sculpt Fun 40-watt machine. It's got some unique things to it, so trying to make sure I've got those kind of under my belt, have it working well. So I'm hoping to get something out on that really quick, and then I'm behind on it, but I had talked about the enclosure, so I can be running the 70-watt Atom Stack more. I've got to get that built. So I actually have a few not this week, but the week after. I have a very weird work week. I'm off Monday, I'm on Tuesday, I'm off Wednesday, I'm on Tuesday, on Thursday, and I'm off Friday. So while it's a weird work week for me, I'll actually have a lot more time next week to get that done. So I'm hoping to get through this laser review this week. I've got some other, I've been mentioning the CNC stuff and whatnot. I've got some projects I want to get through, but I want to get that enclosure built so that I can be working with that 70-watt Atom Stack some more. And like we've mentioned, I'm trying not to bring in so much new gear because my list of projects that I want to do and share, as well as some honeydew projects and other things are getting too big. So more of those to come soon.
Yes. Somebody, I don't know. I didn't see the comment, but apparently somebody asked, I don't know if they're talking about me or what, but yes, I am in Alabama if somebody's asking. And Steve is in South Canada, also known as Minnesota.
South Canada. Hey.
But yeah, but anyways, we do appreciate you guys coming. Stay tuned. More content coming. Try not to just go crazy with the machine reviews, but every time I mention not doing as many, folks keep telling me that they're glad that we do the comparisons and that we test out the stuff so that they don't have to learn it the hard way. So, we're going to try to balance it and, good content, learning, maintenance, all that stuff along with these things. So until next time, guys, y'all be safe and come back next Sunday. Put it on your calendar. Create a calendar event. Sunday nights, 7 p.m. Central.
It's Father's Day next week, right?
Oh, it is, isn't it?
We'll have a Father's Day stream.
What am I going to get myself for Father's Day? Now I got to figure out what I'm going to buy myself for Father's Day. So y'all have a good night.
We'll see everyone.